Aloha! Welcome to another episode of Think Tech Hawaii's Education Movers, Shakers, and Reformers. I'm your host, Carl Campagna. Many people believe that education can be the silver bullet or the linchpin that can help solve problems like homelessness, drug addiction, social division, and income inequality. And in Hawaii, of all places, where our many intertwined cultures all cherish our keiki and do all we can to open doors for their successes, we assume that a high priority is placed on having a world-class educational system. But is it? On this show, we talk about the programs available to our keiki, the quality of our facilities and infrastructure, addressing deferred maintenance, increasing the number of cool rooms for our keiki and teachers, a more comprehensive curriculum approach, as well as appropriately recognizing and valuing our teachers and administrative staff. And perhaps most importantly, what life and career opportunities are we providing for our keiki to thrive today and tomorrow? On today's show, we have the opportunity to talk with 3 students from Iolani High School. They're all seniors. They're all due to graduate in the next couple of weeks. So let me introduce who we have today. We have Miss Taja, Miss Jenna, and Mr. Mike. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for letting us be here.
Excellent. So, okay, let's learn a little bit about you guys. Okay, let's start with Tasha, since you're the first one to my left. Tell us a bit about you. You are about to graduate, so tell me what you've been doing in school, what has motivated you a little bit within school, and then what your thoughts are as far as graduation.
So my name is Taja. I am a senior like them at Iolani School. I think one thing that's gotten me interested about this topic is that as we near graduation, I've been looking back at the opportunities Iolani has provided me, and I think I've sort of realized that not every student has been given the opportunity, and so I've been interested in, I guess, exploring the topic and learning more about maybe what we can do to provide more equitable public school funding. And in the future, or in this fall, I'm going to attend Brown University.
Oh, excellent. So you're going East Coast.
Yes, East Coast, far away.
Wow. Okay, so how does that make you feel? You're going so far away.
I'm kind of nervous, but I have family up there, so.
Oh, that helps. That's going to be a huge help. Okay. So I had a professor myself once a number of years ago who went to Brown and taught at Brown. He was an archaeology professor.
Cool.
So that was just very interesting. So excellent. Well, congratulations to you,
Thank you.
And that you know that. Now, what are you going to be studying? Do you know what you're going to be?
Hopefully political science, but we'll see.
Spectacular. Excellent. Well, thank you for that. All right, Jenna, how about you? What are you doing and what are you thinking about?
Well, I'm Jenna, and we're all seniors at Iolani, so I mean, yeah. But where I am now, I think what got me interested in education in general is the fact that as I've gone through Iolani, I've had a lot of really wonderful teachers and some who aren't necessarily as wonderful. And I think I've realized that in our education system, it's important for us to have quality teachers. And I think that's something that I want to get out there, because the importance of a teacher that's inspirational is something that helps to keep me involved in education and in my studies as I go forward.
Excellent. So okay, so you're about to graduate. What are your thoughts for your next year?
Well, next year I'll be attending Carleton College. It's in Northfield, Minnesota. It's a small liberal arts school, 45 minutes off of the Twin Cities. And I'm excited because hopefully I'll be getting to do a lot of hands-on work there.
Excellent.
And yeah, I hope to be studying science, actually.
Excellent. Well, congratulations for that. And again, you're going to have to get used to the winter.
Oh, yes.
The cold and the snow of Minnesota. It's going to be fun for you. Remember that you cannot have enough layers.
Yeah.
So
different.
Yes. Multiple pairs of socks helps. So, okay. And Mike, how about you? We've seen you before on other shows, so you're a veteran at this type of thing.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not saying that you guys are not, but I know personally that we've seen him. So, Mike, tell us about yourself and tell us what you're doing and what you want to be doing.
Well, right now I'm currently one of the student body presidents at Iolani, and so I've learned kind of a lot about getting different perspectives, and I really want to give back, and so I really would like to dedicate, I guess my life to public service. I would like to run for office one day, and so, when I was given this opportunity to be on the show, I thought this would be amazing, to be able to talk about my perspective and what I believe, and I think it's a great opportunity. So
excellent. Well, thank you so much. And by the way, I also encourage you to get involved in public service. We need more people. We need more young people to be involved and engaged in our system, because I promise you, every vote counts.
Yeah.
Every vote matters, and every engaged person means 10 potential voters.
Yeah.
So everything that can be done, and that's a political science thing, I think you guys are aware of. but anyway, okay, so what are you doing? What are you doing next year?
Well, next year I'll be attending Occidental College in Los Angeles, California. So it
Okay.
won't be too far away. It'll be
Yeah.
nice and warm. And
Nice and warm. You don't have to deal with the snow, because you're going to have to deal with snow as well. So excellent, excellent. Well, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And wonderful. Okay. Alrighty. So we're going to dive a little bit into some of the things that you were already mentioning, and I want to key in on you, Jenna, a little bit. You mentioned an important thing there, which is the need for good or quality teachers, and how some teachers are good and some are not. I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm not going to ask you for names, but from your perspective, other than being inspiring, or maybe being inspiring is the only thing, but what is it that makes a good teacher versus maybe a not so good teacher?
I think there's two important factors that go into having a good teacher. I mean, there are many different things that can combine to have a good teacher, but I think essentially what you need is the expertise, the knowledge, the base behind that. The teacher needs to be qualified to teach the subject that they're teaching, and they shouldn't be stretched too thin to be forced to teach classes that they're not necessarily comfortable with, because not everyone is as good at teaching material, especially material that they're not familiar with. But in addition to the knowledge base, I think that there's also an element of the teacher wanting to care about the students and caring about the subject. Because if they're just there because they have the knowledge and because they can, it's no different than having someone talk to a wall. And you can effectively get YouTube videos now. There's like Khan Academy, there's a lot of different programs that have teachers that can teach without having that personal contact. And I think that what's important about going to school is the fact that you can get teachers that are engaged, that do care about their students, and when they do, it's really easy to love the subject. Like my chemistry teacher this year, she cares a lot about us personally. She might be harsh sometimes, but in general, because she's so passionate about the subject, because she's so passionate about helping us, it really makes it so that all 11 people in our class are fully engaged.
11. There are 11
11.
people in your chemistry class.
Yep.
What chemistry class is this? I know it's
This
not
is
just
AP
basic
chemistry.
AP chemistry.
Yeah.
So what sorts of things are you doing in AP chemistry? What is it that, so you're saying that it's her passion for the chemistry subject matter itself. She's a subject matter expert.
Yeah, I would say
Really?
so.
And so she's got more extra motivation, and what she's good at is conveying that, bringing that out,
Yeah.
and reaching out to each 11 of you, each of you,
Yeah.
and trying to say, you know what, you can do more. Let's get you to do more. And the way she does it, it doesn't, and I'm guessing, I'm supposing, so I would like you to jump in on this. The way she does it doesn't make you feel bad. It inspires you to work harder.
She has high standards, and I think that that helps. It's that she believes that we can do things, and I think that helps in getting us willing to participate in what she wants us to do. Like,
Okay.
we just finished doing a presentation on our project, which was trying to find native Hawaiian plants that could be used as a universal pH indicator. Basically, it would change colors for various pH buffers that we had to create, and the whole idea behind that was we had to go out and get access to these native Hawaiian plants, and then test a multitude of different plants to see which ones are viable and which combinations of native Hawaiian plants work.
Excellent. See,
Yeah, it's exciting.
what's great about that also is, and this is, I think, a consistency with Iolani as well, and you guys tell me, I want you all to comment on this, and that is, you're not just learning in the classroom. There's applied aspects of what you're doing. It's not just memorize this, learn this, take this test, move on. It's, you've learned this, now let's take this out into the field somewhere. Let's take this to another level, so that now everything you learn gets put into a practice of some sort. Is that a consistency at Iolani? Is there a truth in that? All of you chime in on that, and in your experiences with that.
I think that is very true, especially for me personally, especially as I've been kind of interested in the whole political experience. Actually, one of my history teachers was able to get me an internship on Senator Brian Schatz's re-election campaign. So when you mentioned every vote counts, it truly does. I mean, in 2014, that was quite a nail biter, but it truly does mean, or it taught me as well that every vote does count. And I think that was one thing wherein you take something from the history books and you actually put it into real life.
Yeah.
So.
Now, were you part of the team that recently went to DC?
No, I was not a part of that team, but I was stayed home actually that week because I had some prior things. So yeah.
Okay, well, I'm sorry to bring up something that was probably very devastating for you.
No way.
So, okay, yeah, so I know that a group, certainly of history majors, if not political science directed majors, all got to go to DC a couple of weeks ago. And so again, sorry that didn't happen for you.
All right. It's
There
all
will be
right.
other opportunities, I promise. So that's good. Excellent. Excellent. And what about your thoughts as far as the applied aspect of what you're learning? And has that come up for you?
It definitely has. Actually, last year in physics, they offered not really certain seminars where we could examine physics in regards to things like spaceship and space travel, additionally, and things just various things that had to do with real-world application of physics. For example, cars and other things. And I think being able to see things we were learning theoretically applied really helped us to understand the concept, and it got me a lot more interested in physics personally.
That's definitely, the thing that got me as I was taking my physics class, my teacher actually sounded like Einstein. I think he was a good teacher, but the mere fact that he spoke with an Austrian accent, to me, was like, I can pay attention to this guy. He clearly knows what he's talking about. And I was more engaged just because of that. So there are different reasons. But okay, excellent. Well, thank you for that. We're going to take a quick little break. All right, and then we're going to come back with a few other questions, and we're going to dive a little bit into a few more topics. So once again, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
We have Tasha, Jenna, and Mike. And thank you again for joining us. This is Think Tech Hawaii's Education Movers, Shakers, and Reformers. I'm your host, Carl Kimpot. See you in a minute.
I'm Jay Fidel, and I'm the host of Research in Manoa, Mondays from 12 to 1 on thinktechhawaii.com. Take a look at us and learn about geophysics, learn about planetology, learn about the ocean and earth sciences at UH Manoa. You'll really enjoy it. So come around, we'll see you then.
Aloha, I'm Kirsten Baumgart-Turner, and I'm fortunate to be able to host Sustainable Hawaii at thinktechhawaii.com. I hope you'll join in with us every Tuesday from 12 noon to 1 p.m. to see the interesting people we have to share with you their information. Aloha.
Aloha! Hello, my name is Patrick Bratton. I'm host of Global Connections here at Think Tech Hawaii. We broadcast live every Thursday at 1 p.m. We bring Hawaii to the world and the world to Hawaii, talking about international events and various things of interest to the audience. Please join me. I look forward to talking with you and having you get to meet some of my guests. Aloha.
Aloha, welcome back to Think Tech Hawaii's Education, Movers, Shakers, and Reformers. I'm your host, Carl Campagna, and we have with us today 3 seniors from Iolani High School. We have Tasha, Jenna, and Mike. Again, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
So, okay, now I want to talk about a topic that I know we've been discussing here for a couple of months now, and it's a big topic of conversation at the legislature, which I know is something you want to hear about, and that is how we are funding our schools, our public schools in particular, but then also the differences. We have charter schools. I have a daughter who's 15 years old. She goes to Myron B. Thompson Charter School. And as you were mentioning, it's an online course. She doesn't actually have teachers that she ever sees face to face. But she's actually excelling. She's been able to find a way because the teachers are able to work with her using Khan Academy and other means. But it's the funding of the schools. Iolani has its funding source, which is tuition is one part of it, but there are other forces that come together as well. Public school comes from potentially other sources, whether it's a state source or whether it is a school district property tax source. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. And Tasha, let's have you, because I believe that this is a topic that you might know a little bit about.
A little bit. Definitely, I know that Hawaii is unique in that we don't fund necessarily from district property taxes like they do on the mainland, and I think there are definite benefits. Like I know there's places on the mainland where high-income neighborhoods spend 3 to 5 times more on students compared to low-income neighborhoods, and there's definite benefits to having a more equitable distribution of funds across the island. But I think that being said, even if we fund on a state level, we're not putting enough funding necessarily into public schools, and we're not specifically addressing schools that may need more funding, like say schools that have a higher population of children who are homeless or things like that. So definitely, I like how Hawaii funds, but I do think we need to spend more money.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, first of all. Very well said, and I agree. Across the board, when you're looking at charter schools actually get about 75% of the funding that public schools get. So I'm not sure why that happens, and that doesn't seem fair necessarily to those students. Maybe there are ways of justifying that. In the coming weeks, we're going to actually have Mr. Myron Thompson on, and we're going to talk with him a bit about the charter schools and get his opinion on that as well. But yes, from the public school perspective, there's a lot. As my intro suggests, we know that there's deferred maintenance, there's infrastructure needs. We know that the governor just released, or not released, just authorized, and they're signing the bill so that they can get 100 schools. No, is it 100 schools? At least $100,000 worth of money towards air conditioners in these classrooms. And that's important. It's important. I know that at your school, your classrooms are air conditioned, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly. I have a son, my son goes to Kamehameha schools. It's air conditioned. I have a daughter who goes to MIA. It's not. It is definitely not, and it gets hot in there. And one important thing is that it's not just for the students, it's for the teachers, because the teachers have to be in the classroom all day as well. And if you've ever been in a position where you're standing for a long time and it's hot, it actually gets harder and harder. So we have to make sure that we're respecting the teachers in these situations as well as the students. So yes, it's a topic of conversation, and I'd like to get your thought on this as well. It's a topic of conversation that goes into the legislature every year of how are we going to fund the school. And what happens every year in the legislature is they say, well, yeah, we recognize that getting deferred maintenance would be nice if we took care of stuff, if we repainted stuff, if we fixed a few things for that. But where are we going to get that money? Where does that money come from? So I'd like to. I have my own thoughts on a few things. I'd like to hear what you think on where we get the money to take care of these schools.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ultimately, where we're getting the money for these schools is actually through taxes, and it's really allocating our budget. You know, every year we have a yearly budget, and where we're sending this money towards, towards different programs, different sections of the government. Now, basically, for me, I personally believe that I think that we need to prioritize public education a little more than we are currently right now. I think as of right now, it's not at the top of our list when it comes to, I guess, funding, sort of. I mean, one big issue right now is our rail project, which, as you know, has already gone over budget for quite a few times.
A couple times already, yes. And
Yeah.
it will again.
Yeah, exactly.
It will again. Yeah.
And I think in terms like that, if we had just, properly had done the planning for something like that, we could have saved billions of dollars, and that money, instead of being used for, construction costs at the rail stations, instead we could use that towards public education, where we can, increase, we can increase funding, we can make better classrooms, we can AC their classrooms, for example. And I think that that's all really prioritization of, are we going to care more about, how long the commute takes to get to work every day, or are we going to care more about how we're educating our future leaders and how we're getting ready for the next generation?
Well, what I'll say is, first of all, thank you. I think well said. I think there's a lot more to it,
Yes.
and I think there's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
But partially it's because everything is a priority. We want money for everything.
Right.
We want to make sure that there's money to cover all of our schools, to cover the rail, to cover all of the other programs that are out there, the foster care programs, and across the board. We want agencies to be fully funded. We want everything, but there isn't enough money for it all. That's where the priority, that's where the hard decisions of governing comes in.
Right.
The hard decisions of saying, okay, well, the finance committee and the WAM committees have to figure out, okay, we only have so much money. We have $13.5 billion over 2 years. So where can we put that money to be most effective? So if we're doing that and saying, okay, well, we want to, and first of all, again, I agree, we should put education, public education, higher on the priority list. And we should make the piece of the pie for public education a little bit bigger. What they say every year is, okay, but where are we getting that money from to do that? And if we're moving it up on priority and giving it more, what are we not funding? So, okay, you brought up the rail. There's a lot of people who are against the rail. There's a lot of people who are for it. There are reasons on both sides of it. And they're all good reasons, but in the end, one thing to realize is it's going to happen now.
Yeah.
So now what we should be doing is just make sure that we're being as fiscally responsible as possible with it. And that's where, okay, it keeps going up and up and up, so why is that happening? That's a whole topic. I'm not going to jump into that and ask you guys to answer those questions, because that's a whole different subject matter, but that's talking about priority. The benefit of the rail comes down to what social and economic benefits there will be down the road with regards to transit-oriented development. Okay, well, that also could impact school districts. If there's more money happening within this district, if there are more people living and moving into this district, that also means there are potentially and probably more students moving into that district. Maybe there's more opportunity. Well, maybe some of the classrooms are about to get overflowed. So we've been talking for other episodes about the classroom sizes, and in general, I think the typical standard classroom size that people say is like the best or the largest is 24 students. Is that something that I know that we were talking about that earlier, Jenna? Is that something that you have some input on it? Do you believe that 24 is a good number yourself? And going through high school, what has been a typical thing at Iolani?
I think at Iolani, the typical has been between 15 and maybe 20, 25.
At most, probably around 20.
Yeah. Because it doesn't tend to get that large because the school does a very good job about breaking classes up if there seems to be a big section of people interested in a certain subject. And they also do a fairly good job of maneuvering classrooms and maneuvering teachers so that there are enough sections with teachers that have manageable workloads. Because I know the school tries to keep the teachers down to teaching maybe 3, 4, or 5 classes because really they don't want them to have to deal with the full 8 because that'd be really difficult. It'd be a burden on them. It'd take a lot of time away from their families.
It also means they're not teaching necessarily to their subject matter expertise.
Right.
Necessarily as well. So, okay, so that's interesting. Okay, so 15 to 20. I know at Kamehameha schools, they try to have every classroom, certainly through 5th and 6th grade, be 24, 12 boys, 12 girls. And that's their target. I think that as they get into upper grades, I think that increases maybe a little bit. But that seems to be that target. I know at my elementary, they also try to keep in that same range. So I think there's some consistency there, but it's interesting to hear where, you know, at your school is it's a little bit lower. But also, is it because there are there fewer students overall? I don't know if you know the answer to that, but if there are fewer students overall, or if there are more classes, or there are more teachers.
I think it's a combination of everything because from K through 12, Iolani has, I think, 1,800 students. And then within the high school, within our grade alone, the seniors, we represent 230-ish students, which is significantly smaller than I think a lot of public schools around the state.
Yeah.
And even so, our campus has a lot of infrastructure, it has a lot of teachers, and it has a lot of support. So I think that it's the combination of having fewer students and having a lot of more classrooms, more teachers.
More classrooms, more teachers, or you don't need more teachers and more classrooms if you have slightly fewer students at the earliest. Okay, but that all benefits the student in that regard because the teacher has more time to devote to each individual. And especially if they're teaching from their subject matter expertise. Now you know that you're getting someone who's passionate about what they're doing. So all these things you had mentioned. So, okay. All righty, well, the funding of our public schools should be higher prioritized. We should make sure that we are putting the money where it needs to go. Where does it need to go? Do we just need general fund money? Or do we need money in the classrooms? Do we need money per student? Where does the money need to go? Where do you think more money, if we had it, should go? Where would you like it to go?
I think it's definitely, each school is going to have an individual need and where the money should go. For example, certain schools are going to have more students, therefore the money should go to, say, decreasing class sizes. Other schools are going to need things such as maintenance. So I think it depends what school you're talking about, and I guess depending on what scale the funding is provided to them, where it would be more beneficial. But I think one thing that's an effective program that we could be putting more money into, I think we just started, is specifically preschool education, because I know early intervention is especially important in later success in the education system.
I agree with that as well. So, okay. Do you agree? Have any other thoughts?
I think funding needs can go to expanding or dealing with the expanding population size. I know within downtown and around Honolulu, there's a lot of growth in terms of housing. And so I think there's going to be an influx of students, and we're already seeing it in certain schools as well, not only in town, but also on the west side of the island near Kapolei, near Ava Beach. And as a consequence, what we're seeing is that those schools are having to deal with more students. I think a lot of them are going on to track systems. And this makes it more difficult for not only the teachers, but the students as well, because they don't have the traditional summer break, and there's this, it makes it harder for parents to figure out what's going on as well.
Yeah, agreed. Any other thoughts? I'll give you a chance to comment here.
I'd say, I do agree with Taja that there's no one blanket case. Everything has to be specified on an individual case. But also, I think another thing we can increase is teacher pay and teacher raise. I think that teachers should be valued a lot more than they really are right now. Essentially, without a teacher, a classroom is just a room with students in it. We need somebody in there who can actually teach the subjects, who can actually inspire these students into possibly having an interest in these subjects. And so I think if we value them at a much more higher rate than they are right now, I think if we prioritize them as well, that they're much better, they're much more important than a lot of people think that they are. So I think that's another area we could increase funding too.
Okay, I think this is a lot of very important sage advice here, because we're saying, first of all, we need to treat the teachers as the professionals that they are and pay them accordingly. And I've said many times that, you know what, unfortunately, my kids spend more time, Monday through Friday, my kids spend more time with their teachers than they do with me. And so therefore we want to make sure that we have the quality teachers and that we're giving them everything possible. So I think that's true, making sure that we're really bringing in and keeping quality teachers. And I think that's true from pre-K through PhD, actually. Bringing in and keeping quality teachers and growing those teachers. So my preference would be that you guys go off to your schools, and that's great, and then you come back and you teach. So that's something I would like to do, is create a program where you guys can have some of your education, which we're going to shift into now, some of your education paid for by coming back and teaching for a few years. So would you be willing to do that?
Definitely.
That sounds
I think
like-
so.
See, I like that idea. I like it. Okay, good. And then also, I think that so few people actually think about it in the way that you just said it. That yes, if we get more money, where does it go? Well, it isn't just a blanket thing. I think you're exactly right. I think that's very well said. It isn't like, okay, well, we need to put money so that we have air conditioning in every classroom. Well, not every classroom needs it. Some classrooms already have it. Okay, so that school doesn't need that money for that, but maybe that school needs that money for something else. So my question is, who's thinking about the big picture? Who's thinking about the overall plan for what these schools need from an infrastructure and facilities basis? I'm not sure. I'm not sure who that is. I know there's a lot of people who are smart and who are involved in that, and I think it's not necessarily easy. But I think that's an important thing to realize, that some classrooms and some schools need money in one area and not in another, and to sort of take them case by case to make sure the funding is going where it is needed. So excellent, very well done. So okay, we're going to take a little break here, but we're going to jump back into, we're about to jump into the cost of really higher education. We're going to do that, and then we're going to probably go into one other area as well. But again, thank you, appreciate that. So okay, thank you everyone for staying with us. This is Think Tech Hawaii's Education Movers, Shakers, and Reformers. I'm your host, Carl Campagna, with Tasha, Jenna, and Mike. See you in a minute.
Aloha, namaskar, and hello. My name is Anu Hittel, and I host a show, Climate Change Beyond Outrage. In it, we go beyond outrage to look at solutions to climate problems facing people, nations, and the world. Join me every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Hawaii Standard Time. See you then.
Aloha, I'm Kaui Lucas, host of Hawaii is My Mainland, here on Think Tech Hawaii every Friday at 3 p.m. We address issues of importance for those of us who live here on the most isolated landmass on the planet. Please come join me Fridays at 3 p.m. Mahalo.
Aloha! How you doing? It's me, Angus McTech, wishing you to welcome and join us to see us on Hibachi Talk on Think Tech Hawaii. Join my co-hosts, Gordo the Tech Czar and Andrew the Security Guy, every Friday from 1300 to 1345. We look forward to seeing you. We'll talk tech and we'll have some wee bit of fun. And remember, let your wing gang free wherever you be. Aloha!
Welcome back to Think Tech Hawaii's Education Movers, Shakers, and Reformers. I'm your host, Carl Campagna, and we have with us 3 Iolani seniors. We have Tasha, Jenna, and Mike. So again, thank you for joining us. All right, I thought that was a really good conversation last segment, so thank you for that. A lot of really good insight coming from students. I really appreciate that. Okay, one thing I want to hear from you guys, and I have a specific opinion that I really only got from once I went to college and I started looking back, and that is what you think curriculum should be. I know you'd mentioned, well, we need to make sure they're preschool. First of all, we need to make sure that we have preschool available and at earlier ages, that we're making sure that we're getting the kids engaged, and it's a combination of socialization as well as thinking ahead of time about, okay, numbers and all that, and letters and words. So I agree with that, but once you get into elementary school and secondary school, what are your opinions as far as curriculum that maybe you wish you had, or maybe you did have that you know that other students don't have? So what are your thoughts on curriculum and what might be important required curriculum?
I think one thing I've appreciated about Iolani is specifically, I guess, in the English and History department, they offer a wider range of basically courses that we can take. For example, in English, there's British literature, American literature, women in literature, and even though there's a distribution requirement where we have to take certain years of English because there's so many courses, it never felt like a burden. It always felt like I could engage myself, and that's something I definitely wish that other schools had the opportunity to have as well, which is to take classes that they wanted to take even if there was a distribution requirement.
Okay, so you're talking about a diversity.
Diversity,
So
yes.
it's not just a blanket, English class, it's specific.
Right.
It's perhaps course matter, subject matter specific in a way, and you have options.
Yeah.
I could take this English class in early English literature, as opposed to, and actually my daughter has been doing some of that as well, so I know that she gets some of that opportunity at Myron B. Thompson, so okay. And how about your thoughts?
Well, I think one thing that, or see a national trend is that a lot of, elementary schools have been started to focus more on STEM as well, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. I do like that idea, but also I would like to encourage, art as well, because, there is also a huge variety of different things between visual arts, performing arts, and, I think that we shouldn't just limit our students just strictly into, either being a science or a math major or a technology or engineering, but I think that we should, really open up and let them choose what they want, because ultimately we don't know what their interests might be, because, they're so young at that time, and, we should give them, like Taja said, as many options as possible, because we never really know what their passion might be until once we find it.
Also, students learn differently.
That is true.
You learn differently than Tasha learns, than Jenna learns. So the way that you take in that knowledge and then process that knowledge is different. So you want to make sure that you've got art classes and music classes, because that can actually help a child be more focused, because that's how they learn. They learn based on images and shapes. They don't learn on linear thoughts. Well, okay, some people, I was more linear. Definitely, I still am. More linear, how I think, more regimented. But you know what? My daughter, I have an 8-year-old daughter, she doesn't think that way at all. She sees things differently, and I think that's wonderful and curious, and it's something that I've had to learn how to help her, because she doesn't. My son, give him by rote, okay, learn this, memorize this, okay, and he's done, and he's got it, and he can tell you, and he's got, all the math tables memorized, and he's got, great. My daughter's like, yeah, but she can tell me, and just her artistic work and her hand craftsmanship is far and above. It's like, okay, she's different. So that's another way of looking at it. So, okay, as far as curriculum is concerned, what are your thoughts?
I agree with Tasha. I think that a diversity of courses is necessary, but I also think at least at an elementary and a secondary school level, or at least elementary and high school level, I think the distribution requirement is probably beneficial. Like, for example, although I like science and although I want to go into chemistry, I think that the idea behind me taking English classes and the fact that the school forces me to take English classes is actually beneficial in the long term, because in the globalized world and in this technological age, what we're seeing is that you need to be able to not only write, not only speak, and not only be able to do math, but like there's this blend and there's this blend of skills that you need, and you can't just focus on one thing yet. And I think that's what college is for, and I think it's great that college gives that opportunity. But I think at a high school level, we can't lose sight of that, and you can't cut off humanities, and you can't cut off the sciences just yet.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things we know, that the first thing that gets cut from most programs is the art program.
Yeah.
Right. The arts and music programs get cut first, and that's a shame. And I know that in some schools, those teachers had to learn STEM. They had to learn how to teach STEM. So we've got art and music teachers now teaching STEM classes. Okay, from their perspective, and a couple that I've heard are actually doing fairly well. Okay, good for them. But maybe we need to think about that a little differently. We need more quality teachers. So, okay, so what you both suggested, and what I'm hearing with all of this is also something that I agree with. We cannot continue to act in what's called a silo, or a vertical isolationism. So we can't just you're going to take these classes, and that's going to be the end of it. And you're going to learn these things, and you're going to know how to take this test, and then when you're done taking this test, you're going to move on to the next thing, and it's just siloed. It's absolutely necessary and important, and more, and some of the other work that I do, some of the other opportunities that I get engaged in, where you get the most production is when you cross those lines, is when you bring multiple or interdisciplinary professions together and say, Okay, what's your thought on this, and what's your thought on that? We have this problem, we have this math problem, we have this chemistry problem. Well, what does the philosophy professor maybe have to say about this subject matter? What does the engineering professor have to say about this play that we're putting on? Sometimes it can be a little too extreme, but in other cases, if we don't learn, if we don't integrate from all of these different areas, then perhaps we're not giving ourselves the greatest opportunity to really see more out of it. And I think there's a lot of truth in that, a lot of areas. I think most innovation comes out of that type of interdisciplinary interaction. Okay, that's a lot of words to throw at you, but I know you get them all. But that's what I'm hearing is you're talking about, okay, we can't just silo. We have to make sure that there are options and there are opportunities, and we're spreading it around. Now, what I'll jump into is, like, when I went to college, I realized I thought I knew English. I thought I knew English. I didn't know English. Because I first started taking, I have a degree in history, and specifically classical history, which means like I got to take Latin class. Okay, and as I'm taking Latin class, I'm like, okay, I don't know English at all. I have no idea how it works, because the only way I could learn Latin is if I compare it to English. So English works, so this is the difference in how you get into Latin, and Latin structure is based on, okay. Well, I had to relearn. My first semester of Latin was me relearning English, just so that I can actually do Latin correctly. So my first term of Latin, I got a B. But then I got A's from that point on. So, okay. But that was just, but I realized, so as you're taking your classes, and if you're taking your English class, and okay, I'm doing fine in this, I'm doing well in this, okay, great. As you get into other languages, you begin to realize, first of all, there's a different way of thinking, different way of seeing things. Again, this siloed aspect, we need to break that down and realize that, okay, English is more complex and has more rules, and that ability to utilize those rules to communicate is absolutely necessary, because you're right. You can't just be a chemist, certainly not anymore. You need to be a chemist that knows how to actually talk with people and communicate your ideas effectively, especially when it gets more competitive.
Yeah.
So the better you're able to reach out to somebody else and say, by the way, and this is why this is a wonderful chemical composition of whatever. It's how you do it, how you say it, how you present it that matters, which comes down to one of the other things that we've talked about here, and I'd like to get your thought on this, is the tools that you have available to you in your classrooms. My son is in 5th grade. He goes to Kamehameha schools. He got given a laptop.
Wow.
Well, good for him. He has to give it back, but he got given a laptop with very explicit rules. This is how you use it, and this is how you do not use it. Okay, he's been very good about that. My daughter, she's 2 years behind him, but she doesn't have a laptop, and she's not going to be going to Kamehameha schools. She's not going to get a laptop. So when she gets into 5th grade, it's not an option. So one of her tools for learning and for doing her work is not going to include a computer unless she comes home to do it. Whereas he does a lot of his work using PowerPoint. He does a lot of his work using Excel and Word. He realizes that he no longer has to learn. His class isn't about learning how to use PowerPoint and Excel. His class is utilizing those as tools to get the rest of what he wants out. So he's communicating what he has learned back to his teacher, utilizing those tools. So at your school, what tools are available to you at your school?
Well, recently, Iolani just unleashed its iPad unveiling, actually. So now all students from kindergarten through 12th grade are given an iPad, which is very similar to how Kamehameha has the Apple laptops. And so essentially what the whole purpose behind it was to be able to give students the ability to have all this information in one small device, giving them all the opportunities for them to look, research, and find things, but then also at the same time, not have to do things the traditional way, because nowadays, and like you said before, in today's world, things just move like that. Things move quickly. Things don't change as slow as they did before. Yeah. And so I think by giving a lot of students an iPad, you're giving them another ability to learn something that they originally wouldn't have learned in a traditional classroom setting.
Exactly.
So like exactly what your son was saying, not only learning how to use Word or use Excel, but actually using how to explain his ideas and explain what he wants, what he's learned.
Exactly. Expressing your thoughts, expressing your art, expressing whatever you're interested in, whatever your classwork assignment is, being able to not have the barrier be the technology. And not, so that's what I see he's already doing, and it's in 5th grade. I didn't learn that stuff until college. Now, all that was available for me until college, but there's a huge difference. It's a mindset. So I like to say your generation, all generations, my generation, got to do all of what we were able to accomplish standing on the shoulders of the previous generation. Well, your generation gets to do the same thing, but your generation doesn't know what it's like to not have the internet. Doesn't know what it's like to not have a computer. So everything that you are coming up with, everything that you are creating, all of your innovations and all of your ideas are coming from that foundation. My foundation didn't include those things. So that's where my greatest inspiration, what excites me the most about the opportunities that are in front of us through you and future generations, is the fact that the shoulders you're standing on include all of these amazing tools. So I can't wait to see what you do with them. So no pressure. Okay, we have to go, but I briefly, cost of higher education is the thing that you're about to deal with, and whether you get scholarships or whether you get student loans or whether you've got a rich uncle, aunt, or father that can pay for it, or mother who can pay for it. That's oftentimes the difference between whether you actually get to go to school or not, right? And that is that fair? Is that fair?
Personally, I don't think so. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't have the same opportunities. I mean, I've been lucky that my parents had the opportunity to go to school, and they had the opportunity, and they were lucky enough to find a job with the degrees that they had gotten.
Which is an important thing. With the degrees, you're able to get the careers and the jobs. It's the difference between a job and a career, but with the degrees, with the higher education, you're able to go get a position somewhere that pays you more, that gives you greater opportunities to earn more, so that you're then able to provide more. And that's one of the huge disconnects sometimes as well. People are like, I just need to go get a job. Okay, well, you're going to go make $10 an hour if you're lucky. And that's great. You're going to work really hard and maybe have 3 jobs. And that's, hey, I'm sorry. I got to go to college, so as a result, I got to go do work that I'm paid 2 or 3 times that sometimes, or more. So, okay, so that's a big issue, how to pay for higher education. We know that Bernie Sanders at the moment wants to make it free for everybody. Obviously, free means the general public is paying for it instead of it just being free, because it can't be. But that's a big issue that we unfortunately weren't able to get to that today as well. But I want to thank all 3 of you for coming. I really appreciate you being on the show. And thanks for making the trip over from Iolani. And thank you again. This is Think Tech Hawaii, Education, Movers, Shakers, and Reformers. I'm your host, Carl Campagna. Thanks again to Mike, Jenna, and Tasha from Iolani. They are seniors graduating in 2.5 weeks. So let me also thank the staff and the crew of Think Tech Hawaii and everyone involved. And I truly appreciate the opportunity to be here every week. See you soon. Thanks.